All right, strap yourselves in because today we're diving deep into the world of electric SUVs.
Ooh, sounds exciting.
Yep. We're taking a close look at the Cupra Tavascan.
Ah, yes, the Tavascan. I've heard some buzz about this one.
Yeah, it's a brand new model that's been generating a lot of hype, but there's a bit of a twist.
So what's the catch?
Well, it's mechanically identical to the Volkswagen ID.5.
Oh, interesting. So basically the same underpinnings, but a different badge.
Exactly. But the Cupra comes with a significantly higher price tag.
Hmm. So that begs the question, is it really worth the extra cash?
That's what we're here to find out, and our main source for this deep dive is a review from Parker's.
Parker's solid choice. They're pretty thorough with their car assessments.
Yeah, they are. All right, so let's jump right in. Parker's kicks things off by talking about the styling, and they describe it as a bold coupe SUV look.
Coupe SUV, so kind of like a sportier, more angular SUV with that sloping roofline.
Exactly. It's definitely meant to turn heads and stand out from the crowd.
It seems like Cupra is really trying to carve out its own distinct identity, separate from Volkswagen.
Yeah, they're aiming for that premium feel, almost like a European sports car brand, and the design is a big part of that.
That makes sense because if they're going to charge a premium, they need to give people a reason to choose the Cupra over the Volkswagen.
Now let's step inside the Tavascan. The reviewer says the cabin is different, which is an interesting choice of words.
Different, huh? I'm intrigued. What do they mean by that?
While they're carrying over some of the futuristic elements from a 2019 concept car, so think a floating center console,
Oh, wow, that sounds pretty cool.
a curvy dashboard, and a massive 15-inch infotainment screen dominating the center stack.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend these days. Bigger is better when it comes to infotainment screens.
But then there's a catch.
Oh, there's always a catch, isn't there? What's the downside?
The reviewer wasn't impressed with the interior quality, especially considering the price point.
That's a bit of a letdown. So what are we talking about here?
Think hard plastics and those annoying haptic buttons that don't give you good feedback when you press them.
You know, those haptic buttons drive me crazy. I much prefer a good old-fashioned physical button you can feel click.
Yeah, it's a bit of a disconnect. You're paying a premium price, but you're not necessarily getting that premium feel in terms of materials.
It's like they put all their effort into the exterior styling and then skimped on the interior.
So stylish on the outside, but maybe not so much on the inside. Okay, let's move on to the tech, that 15-inch screen we mentioned that's shared with the Volkswagen ID.7, right?
Yes, that's right. The hardware identical. It's basically the same unit you'd find in the ID.7.
But there's a surprising twist here. The Parker's reviewer actually said they prefer Volkswagen's menu design.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So even though the screen is the same, the software and user interface can make a big difference.
Yeah, it goes to show that those seemingly small details can have a significant impact on the user experience.
Absolutely. It's all about how intuitive and user-friendly the system is.
All right, so let's say you're behind the wheel of this Tavascan. What's the driving experience like?
Well, Cupra wants to be known for its performance. So they've tuned the Tavascan to handle more sharply than its Volkswagen cousin, the ID.5.
Okay, so they're going for that sporty driving feel, but is there a trade-off for that sportiness?
There is. The reviewer found the ride to be quite stiff, almost uncomfortably so at lower speeds.
So you get that sharp handling, but you might feel every bump and imperfection in the road.
Yeah, it's like choosing between a sports car and a luxury sedan. You prioritize performance over comfort.
And was there anything else that stood out to you about the driving experience?
The brakes. They weren't a fan of how the car transitions between regenerative braking and the regular friction brakes.
So when you lift off the accelerator, the car starts to slow down using the electric motor to generate electricity and recharge the battery.
Exactly. But then at some point, the regular friction brakes kick in, and the reviewer felt the transition was a bit jerky and inconsistent.
Yeah. So not the smoothest braking experience. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about the powertrain and range. What options are we looking at here?
You've got two main choices. The base model is the rear-wheel drive V1. It has 286 horsepower and a 77 kilowatt battery.
Okay, and what kind of range does that give you?
That gives you a pretty impressive range of 353 miles on a single charge.
That's pretty competitive with other EVs in this class. And what about the other option?
That's the dual-motor VZ1. It bumps you up to 340 horsepower, so more oomph, but you do sacrifice some range, dropping down to 320 miles.
More power, less range. It's a classic trade-off. And how about charging? How long are we talking at the plug?
Well, the Tavascan supports rapid charging at 135 kilowatt, which is decent. You can get a good chunk of charge in a reasonable amount of time, but it's not the fastest out there.
So not quite as speedy as some rivals, but still respectable. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the price. this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah, that's right, because the Tavascan starts at 47,340 pounds, which, as we mentioned earlier, is considerably more expensive than the Volkswagen ID.5 it's based on.
So the big question is, what are you actually paying for here? Are you getting enough extra to justify that premium price tag?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's something we'll be exploring in more detail as we dive deeper into the Tavascan.
We've got a lot more to unpack, so stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into the Cupra Tavascan.
You know, it's a really intriguing strategy, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, Cupra is trying to appeal to a very specific type of buyer. You know, someone who's willing to pay more for a perceived upgrade in style and performance.
So they're not just targeting EV buyers, they're targeting a niche within that market, people who maybe wouldn't have considered an electric car before, but are drawn to this sportier, more design-focused image.
Exactly. It's like they're trying to create a halo effect. You know, if they can establish themselves as this desirable premium electric brand, it could benefit their entire lineup.
So even though the Tavascan shares so much with the ID.5, it's more about creating a brand image and appealing to a different kind of customer.
Right. And that's where things get a bit tricky because, as the review pointed out, the interior quality doesn't quite live up to that premium expectation. You know, those hard plastics and the finicky haptic buttons.
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to have it both ways, offering a sporty premium experience, but cutting corners on some of the materials.
And that could be a risky move because in this segment, buyers have high expectations. They're comparing this car to established luxury brands.
Right, and those little details can make a big difference. Okay, so let's get back to the elephant in the room, the price.
Ah, yes, the price.
You're paying a significant premium for the Cupra over the Volkswagen. Is it purely for the badge and the sportier tuning, or is there more to it?
Well, it's a combination of factors. The Cupra does get you a more aggressive suspension setup.
Okay, so it's going to handle a bit more like a sports car.
Right, and there are some subtle styling tweaks that differentiate it from the ID.5, but it's also about the brand perception. Cupra is positioning itself as the more exciting, more driver-focused alternative.
So you're paying for a different experience, a different image, not just a list of features.
Precisely, and that's a very subjective judgment. Some buyers might find that extra bit of sportiness in the Cupra badge worth the extra cost.
While others might prioritize practicality and value for money.
Exactly. It really comes down to personal preference.
It's interesting how car buying has become so much about emotion and personal preference, especially with EVs.
Absolutely. It's no longer just about getting from point A to point B.
It's about making a statement, aligning yourself with a particular brand or lifestyle.
Exactly. Okay, let's bring it back to the Parker's review for a second. What were some of the key takeaways for you?
Yeah, what stood out to you?
Well, they really praised the Tavascan's handling. It seems like Cupra nailed that sporty driving feel, especially in the VZ trim with the dual motors.
But as we discussed, that comes at the expense of ride comfort.
Right, that stiff suspension might be fun on a twisty back road, but it could get tiresome on your daily commute.
And the brakes were another issue, weren't they?
Oh yeah, that inconsistent feel between regenerative and friction braking. That's definitely something they need to address.
Smooth, predictable braking is so important, especially in an EV.
It's essential, and it's something that other manufacturers have managed to get right, so it shouldn't be an insurmountable challenge for Cupra.
All right, so let's recap some pros and cons on the positive side. We've got that stylish design, the sporty handling, and the decent range, especially in the base model.
But then on the downside, we have the questionable interior quality, the stiff ride, and those finicky brakes.
Exactly. It's a bit of a mixed bag, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not a clear-cut case.
The Tavascan has some real strengths, but also some weaknesses that could be deal breakers for certain buyers.
And it all comes back to that question of value. What are you actually getting for your money? Is the Cupra experience worth the premium?
It's a tough call. I think it really depends on your priorities.
What do you mean?
Well, if you value sporty handling, sharp design, and brand image above all else, then the Tavascan might be appealing.
But if you're looking for a more well-rounded package,
You know, with better interior quality and a more comfortable ride.
then there might be better options out there.
Exactly. Okay, so let's break it down. The Parker's review suggests the V1 or VZ1 trims offer the best value for your money.
Okay, those seem to be the sweet spots. So what are the main differences between those two, and why do they stand out?
The V1 is the entry-level model, and it gets you that impressive 353-mile range. It's also the most affordable, although still more expensive than the comparable ID.5.
So that's the one to go for if you prioritize range and efficiency.
Exactly. Then you've got the VZ1, which steps up to the dual motor setup, giving you more power and a sportier feel. but you do lose a bit of range.
So V1 for efficiency and range, VZ1 for performance. What about those higher trims, the V2 and VZ2? What do they bring to the table?
Well, the V2 adds some luxury features like bigger wheels, a panoramic sunroof, and a better sound system. And the VZ2 goes even further with ventilated seats and leather upholstery.
Some more bells and whistles.
But as Parker's pointed out, the price jump for those added features might be hard to justify.
It's a classic case of diminishing returns, isn't it? You get those initial big jumps in features and performance, but then the upgrades become more incremental and less impactful for the price.
Exactly, and that's why they recommend sticking with the V1 or VZ1 if you're looking for the best bang for your buck.
So we've talked a lot about the car itself, but I think it's important to zoom out a bit. What does the arrival of the Cupra Tavascan tell us about the broader EV market?
Well, I think it signals a shift towards greater segmentation and specialization.
What do you mean?
We're seeing more and more EVs that cater to specific niches like performance enthusiasts, luxury buyers, or those who prioritize off-road capability.
So it's no longer just about offering a basic electric car.
Right. Manufacturers are recognizing that EV buyers are just as diverse as any other car buyer, and they're starting to develop products that reflect those diverse needs and preferences.
And that's a good thing for consumers, right?
Absolutely, because it means more choice, more innovation, and more competition.
So as you consider your next car purchase, it's worth thinking about what you truly value in a vehicle.
Are you looking for pure practicality, cutting-edge technology, a thrilling driving experience, or a luxurious ride?
Once you understand your priorities.
You can narrow down your options and find the EV that best fits your needs and lifestyle. And remember, doing your research is key.
Reviews like the one we've been discussing from Parker's can be incredibly helpful in that process.
Absolutely. They provide those crucial insights that help you see beyond the marketing hype and understand the real strengths and weaknesses of a vehicle.
And that brings us back to the core question we posed at the beginning.
What constitutes value in this evolving EV market?
It's no longer just about range or price.
It's about finding a vehicle that aligns with your individual needs, preferences, and values.
Yeah, and with so many compelling EVs hitting the market, the definition of value is becoming more nuanced and personal.
Yeah, it's like we're watching the EV market grow up right in front of us.
Yeah.
It really is. We're moving past that early phase, when it was all about practicality and range and worrying about getting stranded.
Right, those were the days.
Now it's about refining the experience, catering to different tastes, pushing the boundaries of what an electric car can be.
And that's where a car like the Cupra Tavascan fits in. It's not trying to be everything to everyone.
It's making a statement.
It's going after a specific buyer, someone who appreciates style and performance.
And maybe a little bit of European flirting.
Exactly. It's a bold move, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The market's getting crowded,
It is. There are a lot of really compelling EVs out there,
Yeah.
even in that sporty SUV segment.
You've got those big names like the Kia EV6, the Tesla Model Y, even the Ford Mustang Mach.
They all bring something different to the table, so the Tavascan's got some tough competition.
It definitely does. But competition is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It pushes everyone to innovate, to improve, to offer more.
And ultimately, it's the consumers who benefit from that.
Exactly. All right, so let's wrap this up.
Yeah, let's bring it all together.
We've spent some time with the Cupra Tavascan. We've looked at its design, its performance, the tech.
And of course, that price tag.
Always a factor. And we've talked about how this car reflects the broader EV market, that trend towards more specialized EVs catering to specific tastes.
But here's the thing. The best EV for you, the listener,
Is the one that fits your life,
it's the one that aligns with what you value.
Exactly. So ask yourself what's important to you.
Do you want maximum range above all else?
Are you looking for that sporty, thrilling drive?
Or is it about comfort and practicality for you?
Figure out what matters most to you, and then do your research,
Test drive a few cars, read some reviews like the one we talked about from Parker's.
Those reviews can be so helpful. They give you those real-world insights.
And they can help you cut through the marketing and really understand what a car is all about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Try different brands, different models. You might be surprised by what you discover.
There's a whole world of electric cars out there just waiting to be explored.
So buckle up, enjoy the ride, and find the EV that speaks to you.
And with that, we come to the end of our deep dive into the Cupra Tavascan. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.